Here we go again. Anything is possible. And the crowd absolutely love it. This is why we love Formula One.
Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri and Nico Hülkenberg. If I told you around 2 hours ago that was your British Grand Prix podium, you'd say, my goodness me, thanks very much. How on earth did that happen? After 239 race starts, Nico Hülkenberg stands on the podium for the first time in his career, and Lando Norris has won his home race for the first time. A dream come true. While his teammate in P2 is left reeling by a 10-second penalty, which he feels is very unfair. So much to unpack here in the post-race show, and I'll be honest, just about drying my eyes because sport always gets me, and this afternoon has been incredible. And we've already got a driver. Before I can even speak to you, Jolie, I'm going to bring in Alex Albon, P8 today, and look.
Sorry. It's that girl from the Queen's Gambit.
Anya Taylor-Joy. Anya
Yes.
Taylor-Joy is just over our shoulders here. She's very cool. Alex Albon a little bit distracted. But
she is wearing a Ferrari jacket though, so she loses points.
okay, give her the Williams jacket on your way over,
Yeah.
and she'll definitely change allegiance. But let's get to your race.
Yes.
It's a P8. It's not a DNF. Most importantly, that Williams now seemingly relatively more reliable.
Yeah.
But what a chaotic race. Take us into the cockpit through each decision, each moment out there on inters, on slicks and everything in between.
Yes, I honestly can't remember most of it. And then the team told me 8 laps to go, and I thought, 8 laps to go? Where's this race gone? I feel like I've been racing for only 5 laps or so. So what do I think? How do I think of it? Surprisingly, the way that this track is, the inter tyre is getting destroyed, and you're losing a lot of rubber on the track. We were really slow on the inter tyres, especially when it got to that drying phase. Sorry, I got hair in my somewhere.
That's okay.
And
it's been a long day.
And we've been on a really low downforce swing, which, especially on the intermediate tyre, we were under downforce, let's say. Then when we put the slicks on, it was so much fun. I mean, to explain to the viewers, then the line that we're having to drive on is so small, and actually the curbs retained moisture. So the line was even harder to thread the needle. The quicker you go, the more temperature you put in the tyres, the easier the car becomes, but then the harder you get to stay within them lines. And it feels more like qualifying. You're kind of daring yourself to go faster and faster and keep it within the lines to get that tyre temperature, because you know that's going to be the quicker car at the end of the race.
So put us in the cockpit for the start. I don't know if you can remember all that time ago, but it was inters to the grid, and then you're all there sitting on the grid. 20 drivers left the grid on inters, and I was up with DC going to commentary, and we were like, is anyone going to pit? Because it looks quite dry.
Yes.
So you're going around on the formation lap. Quite a few drivers did pit in. You obviously decided to stay out, which was the right move at the time.
It was all slick, and then sector 3, it was totally wet. And I think the ones that made the call, because I was one of them saying, this is slicks.
Yeah.
I got to turn 15 and it was like, no, no, stay out, we're not going to box. And sector 3 took ages. I don't know if it's the wind. The wind's been helping dry out the track really quickly, but it's quite sheltered around there. I think there's too many Lando Norris grandstands holding it at bay. But
maybe the Alex Albon grandstands come next year and try and do a bit of a
there might be like a 50-meter section of the track that gets blocked. But yes, it was tricky. I think the calls were really tricky. What made it hard for us was Carlos and I were always on track at the same point of within a second, let's say. So because I never got past Carlos till the end of the race, I was always doing the extra lap and losing 2 or 3 seconds. So it was at the time frustrating. But we kept it on track, which I think was the main thing.
Yeah, that was pretty key to finishing today's race, it seemed. There were plenty of excursions and DNFs as well. Alex, after 3 DNFs on the trot, it must mean a lot to be standing here, firstly finishing the race in a car that you now know works, I guess, but equally in the points. How much confidence heading into Spa, both in the performance, the pace and the reliability?
We took a lot of preventative measures for this race. We most probably overcalled the car and did everything we could. We definitely gave up performance to make sure we could finish this race and make sure we get a race on the board. We've lost a lot of points over the last 3 races, not finishing a race. So it was our main priority, and more for the team and everyone at Grove. Just the momentum boost. 3 DNFs, it's not good for anyone. So it was nice to get in that, to get points on at the same time was fantastic. We still need to fix the issue though. We're still ongoing, doing some work on it. We did a lot of runs FP1 and FP2 to try to figure it out, and I hope we can go to Spa stress-free.
Before we let you go, I know you are effectively battling Sauber because they are rising through the constructor standings. But a word for Nico Hülkenberg today, because it's one of the great stories of our sport.
Amazing. I really like Nico, and I feel like it's fully deserved. I had to double check that it was his first podium.
It was,
long overdue, definitely. And I think he's a bit of an animal. Ooh. He's a bit of an animal behind the wheel, and he deserves it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Well-deserved points for you as well. Thanks for your time, Alex. Really appreciate it. Great stuff. I love that he's like, I don't really know what happened today.
Those races are so
like
bonkers from behind the wheel, where you're like, it was Inters 1 minute, then was it Slicks, and then we went back to Inters. How did I end up ahead of Carlos? How did this happen? And then suddenly 8th. Well done.
I know.
It's a long, wild ride out there.
I was running out of paper, trying to make notes and condense them, and then bits that were relevant 5 laps before suddenly were not relevant at all because we'd had a biblical amount of rain come down. Let's get back to the very top, though. Lando Norris, a home win. He said at the start of the race weekend, I would even give back the Monaco trophy to walk away with this. Doesn't have to give back any of them. He has won his home Grand Prix. And look, we'll argue about the penalty, and obviously Oscar will be very upset about what happened out there. But Lando Norris drove a very clean race to secure the win.
Yeah, he did. I feel, great for Lando. And it's nice to have a home Grand Prix won by a home driver. So for Lando to get a first British Grand Prix win, it's a special feeling, and the emotions are rightfully there. And he's driven a really clean weekend. He was not dissatisfied with third on the grid yesterday because he knew it would give him chances. And then the race fell to him, didn't it? I mean, Max spun off from in front. He was just in behind and struggling to make the pass. I think it would have come in the end because Max was having a tricky day. But the spin came, and a few seconds before the spin, the penalty was going to come. So really, it was a race of pace for Lando and patience, and then it came to him. So well done to him for executing the race. But I feel conflicted because I do think the penalty was I just feel like it's harsh on Oscar, and to see a race decided with a 10-second penalty for an infringement that really didn't change the race very much. I mean, Max did spin, but it was I feel like in a separate incident. They were back in line, they were ready for the restart, and then Oscar went. So I feel personally like it was a bit heavy-handed from the stewards, and it gave the race to Lando. It's nice for him and the home crowd, and well done. But I do feel really sorry for Oscar. I think he's handled himself really well.
In terms of the championship, of course, it has cut that deficit now to just 8 points at this midpoint of the season. It's crucial for Lando to back up that Austria win with a win here in that quest for the title. Let's get to Oscar Piastri, because he fundamentally almost said no comment in those Parc Fermé interviews. He didn't want to get himself in trouble. You could see how visibly angry he was at the situation. And the moment where he asked on the radio, this is so unfair, can we swap the positions back? What did you make of that?
Well, I think it's sort of fair dues to ask the question, because McLaren have the chance to swap the positions, and if in a normal world, if it was Oscar losing the win to Max, McLaren would be going up right now and trying to argue the case. They might appeal the penalty and they would fight for it, because at the very least, it was questionable. But because it was Oscar to Lando, McLaren were in control of the situation, but they were never going to swap the positions back again. And we could see it there. He said, you're always trying to find brake temperature, tyre temperature under the safety car. It's damp conditions, you're on inters. The safety car lights had just gone off 5 seconds before that. So he's in behind, you can't drop back from the safety car until the lights go. But then you need to drop back, because then you need to do the restart and you can control the pace. What you can't do is drive erratically, and that's what the stewards have pinged him for. But at the same time, you do need to worry about your own temps, because those behind are doing that as well, and you can't be a sitting duck on the restart. So he braked hard. Probably, he'll think, did I need to brake quite as hard as that? He was accelerating into the brake, which I think makes it the situation it was. the spray and the conditions and maybe why the stewards went for the heavy penalty. But personally, I just sympathise because I've been there in the lower formula, leading a race, and you're just thinking, right, safety car restart, when am I going to go? I need to make sure I got the brake temps. He's not trying to do anything tricky. No. He's just trying to control the race that he had in the bag with the 15-second gap. So I feel sorry for him. And it's Lando's home win. It's great for Lando, but there is a championship in play here, and that's a 14-point swing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if we look back to a couple of races ago, Canada, George Russell similarly braked under safety car. Red Bull put the appeal in after the race. That was thrown out, that appeal.
Yeah.
How do these two instances differ? And is it a case that this one, there is a harsher penalty applied just because of the conditions we were in?
I think the conditions, obviously the spray does make it a little bit harder. It certainly look worse from Max's point of view. The action's the same. But I mean, I wonder if the action is quite the same. Was Oscar a little bit more longer on the throttle, building more speed and then hitting the brakes? I mean, I did look at the one after Canada with the data, and George did nothing wrong. You know,
we've got it here coming up actually. So this is the Canada moment. So you can have a look at it again, Jolyon.
Yeah, you know, this is Russell. This is without the safety car coming in, so there's no jeopardy here. The safety car lights are still on, and it finished under safety car. So Max, in that instance, isn't thinking there's ever going to be a racing moment there. But it's just, here we go again. He's getting close to the back of George. He's really close. And George is just going around. Then he hits the brakes and through goes Max. But it's an absolute non-event. And personally, I felt like this one was less of a non-event because of the conditions and the speeds were higher. But in the end, you've still got the guy that's first, swaps positions momentarily with the guy that's second. They then swap back. And really, I just feel like it was kind of a nothingness. Max then goes around the corner and spins, which maybe makes you think, was it part of the incident under the safety car that made him do that? But Max was having a tricky day. The Red Bull car wasn't set up for this conditions.
100%. The package that Max Verstappen had, we said in the pre-race show, is this gamble worth it? As it was drying up, we thought maybe. Then the rain came down again midway through the show. Then the rain came down with such force.
Yeah.
Of 20 minutes or so, half an hour into the race. And that skinny rear wing didn't stand a chance. And Max himself was saying, I can't drive this car.
Yeah, it was the worst case scenario for Red Bull. And that's why Oscar had the lead and built the lead away, because, you know, in normal conditions, Max is the Rainmeister. He's incredibly talented, and these conditions would be really suiting him. But we saw it before the race. The straight line speed advantage he had was great, but as soon as it's slippery, you can't use the straight line speed because you can't get out of the corners. The traction's just not good enough, and you're just too slow through the corners. You need downforce when it's slippy. So that was Max. And Oscar, I will have a look at the data at some point.
Jolyon
and we'll go
Palmer's
through
analysis comes to you on Tuesday on F1
That'll
TV.
be the one. Look, we'll deep dive it because the stewards have this information at the time. It's just, to me, in the moment, it felt heavy-handed.
All right, we didn't say much in the Parc Fermé interview, did he? But he has just been in the pen. Let's hear from him.
Oscar, you were looking so good out there today. P2 at the end of it, obviously that penalty having quite an influence on your result. Can you just sum it all up for us and your reaction to that as well?
Yeah, I thought the penalty was pretty bad, but anyway, I'm glad we had a quick car today. Showed what I needed to prove, and just disappointing when the result you deserve gets taken from you, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Can you put us in the cockpit for that restart? What was going through your mind, how you were managing it?
I hit the brakes, saw the safety car lights went off, so I didn't accelerate again, and Max went past me, which was a bit strange, and then I got a penalty for it, so about as simple as that.
Yeah, what do you take from the weekend as a whole? A bit of a mini break coming up now before Spa, but
the pace was good, did everything I needed to, just didn't get the result I deserved.
Thanks, Oscar.
Oh, that is not a very happy Oscar Piastri. At least there was pace today. At least he had the lead of the race. But there will be, I'm sure, a post-mortem of what happened today within McLaren. And indeed, I'd imagine they'll be asking questions of the stewards as well in terms of why that was such a harsh penalty. Anyway, we have got Pierre Gasly alongside. Pierre, well done. You've just said to me, I am so full of adrenaline, I don't know if I'll even sleep tonight. Take us into the cockpit through that race. I was struggling even watching. What on earth was that like to be out there?
I'm not too sure. I was seeing what I was doing as well. Like at times it was pretty shocking in the car, but you know, it's this type of moments as a race driver. you know there is so much to lose but so much to win at the same time, and you go for it, and that's what we did today. We took a lot of risks, but you know it all paid off. I must say I've had so much fun. It was probably the funnest race I've had this year, you know, battling with Fernando, with Luis, with Max at the end. It was really enjoyable, and yeah, I'm sad it finished. You know, I wanted to keep going. So.
Your weekend has been just incredible. Yeah. It started FP1. You did a nice 360 at Cops.
Oh yeah.
It could have been destroying the car straight away, and then you've managed to make Q3, and it looked like that was, I mean, an incredible effort to be in the top 10. Then we're on lap 1 of the race, and you're fighting with Lewis for 4th position. So just the rise was coming and coming. I mean, how was it then suddenly fighting with the front guys today?
I'm not gonna lie, I could not believe as well today with the guy I was fighting with. I was still thinking those first few laps on Friday was probably the worst Friday I've ever had in a Formula 1 car. And you know, like to turn things around the way we did. Yesterday was amazing efforts to get into Q3. And, you know, if someone would have told me after Friday night, you're going to be P6, I'll be like, don't know what you're smoking, but some pretty strong stuff. So I'm just very happy with the team because, you know, the mentality, the mindset is the right one. We just go every single time out there. Even the car is not exactly where we want it to be, but we always keep trying, we keep fighting. And, you know, on a day like today, it really, really paid off. And I'm really happy. They all deserve it.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? Maximising these opportunities whenever you can, when you kind of are within the lower end of the constructor standings, making the most of every opportunity you have.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously on the dry, we know it would have been a very different race, but I prayed for the rain all night long, and I woke up this morning, first thing I did, I went on my radar, I was looking the rain around, and I thought it was going to stop around 1 p.m.
Yeah.
When I saw it kept coming in, I was like, oh, that smells good, and we might be able to do something today, and in the end we did.
Did you think it would be as bad as it was ultimately?
No.
That's the UK for you.
Yeah, I mean, I spent quite a lot of time here, but it keeps surprising me all the time. No, I mean, at times, yeah, it was very, very bad in terms of visibility. But the driving this track, you know, on the wet, you know about it. It's like, yeah, you have a lot of sliding, but with this guy still carrying so much speed, it was so much fun. Yeah.
Nice overtake on Lance Stroll right at the end there as well.
On Lance, yeah, I knew I had to make that one, otherwise I would definitely not sleep tonight. I was catching these last few laps and I had my eye on him, but no, I think the best one was on Lewis in the wet out of turn 7. It was very poor visibility, and there was Esteban. He was trying to pass Esteban and managed to find a way to get past Lewis there, and yeah, there were a lot of fun moments. And yeah, I'm glad we managed to stick it in P6. Yeah.
Pierre, thank you so much. Best of luck. Best of luck in Belgium. Hopefully the form continues, and well done today is what I meant to say. Yeah. Thank you, Pierre. Appreciate it.
Well done.
Hope you get some sleep tonight. Oh, brilliant stuff. I mean, getting a sense of how much they enjoyed being out there as well, just how much we enjoy watching it, and it really shows, doesn't it? Let's get on to it, Jolien. You must be incredibly happy for a man you call a teammate, I'm sure you call a friend as well, Nico Hülkenberg. 239 race starts.
Yeah, so
never on the podium.
No, I did the grid walk earlier, and I was waiting at the back of the grid, and out comes Nico, starting 19th, and he just looks so cool and relaxed. And went to go and chat to his engineer. He went to go and have a little chat to Aston Martin up the road as well as he was on his way to have a comfort break. And I just thought, it's a nice race for him today because he's got the experience. He's got an incredible amount of talent. He's got race pace and race knowledge, and he's got absolutely nothing to lose because he starts last. Colapinto's in the pit lane, didn't even take the start. So, and then you just think, how on earth is he managed? I thought maybe some points, but a podium finally is just reward for a really outstanding talent.
And you spoke to Jonathan Wheatley as well on the grid before. Yeah. Here's what he had to say before the start of that race.
Good. How are you feeling today? Driver's a little bit further back today, but the rain's come.
Yeah, I think the mixed conditions is what we're looking for today. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a bit of a challenging afternoon. We're due a bit of sun. There's a little bit more rain around as well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a British Grand Prix.
And your guys are pretty good at coming through from the back already. Nico there again, but the experience is going to show today, surely.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing them both. And if this, like I say, if the weather stays like this, we've got a good chance of improving on our grid positions.
Right, best of luck, Jonathan.
Thank you.
A good chance of improving on our grid position.
I said the experience was going to show, surely.
And it did.
I saw it coming a mile off this one.
It did, it really did. But there was a moment where you saw Lewis Hamilton closing on him so quickly, and I thought, Lewis in a Ferrari at Silverstone, a race he's won 9 times before, he's going to get Nico here, and it's going to be 4th, which is the position nobody wants to finish in.
Well,
and yet, the move on to slicks at just the right time.
Yeah, and it was a straight race, wasn't it? I think Nico did well just to try and get that gap out on the Inters. He looked after them pretty well, even though he was following Lance for such a long time, and just gave themselves a bit of a buffer. Ferrari blinked first, pulled in Lewis, but he didn't do the cleanest outlap. Went off. Charles came through as well, and spent a bit of time there. Obviously, Charles on the different tyre that was grippier at that part of the circuit. So it wasn't ideal for Hamilton, and so it gave the buffer to Sauber. And as soon as Nico came out, had the gap, and then could build in the tyre temps again on the slicks, you just thought, come on, he's got the experience to see this through.
I know, and there was that picture of Jonathan Wheatley on the pit wall, and he was just a vision of tension.
Yeah.
2 laps to go, a podium, and also a podium for Sauber. Their first since 2012.
Yeah.
And this is a team who are on the rise. Every pit stop, except for Nico Hülkenberg's pit stop, actually, which was a slow stop. They've risen from P10, where they started the season, to P6. Their pit stops are getting quicker and quicker. It's a team that now looks like a slick operation, and they needed this.
I'm thinking their first points last year was Vegas.
Yeah, correct, with Zhou. Yep.
So it took 22 races for them to get off the board last year. And now they've got loads of points. Both drivers are there. We were talking about Bortoletto this time last week, and now they've got a podium again. So I'm really pleased for them, because you don't want to see any team struggling. And the same with Alpine, who have been a little bit rocky the last few races. Seeing Pierre happy, and we've got a really competitive Formula One where, Alpine were on the podium not that long ago in Brazil as well. And you just feel like on a day, anyone can be there. And Sauber are moving forward. These scenes are just so heartwarming to see.
Good.
And yeah, it's great reward. And obviously they're becoming Audi next year. So this is great news for that whole team that's about to have a massive injection.
Oh, so good, isn't it? And the Audi project next year, I mean, that podium could not have come at a better time. Jolyon, how did he do it, though? Because it's all about when he changed onto those new intermediate tyres. Because, actually, let's take it back to the very start. The formation lap, many pitted onto a slick after that formation lap. You said it would be worth a gamble.
Hey, I'd have been very wrong.
It was not the correct decision, was it?
Well,
hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Look, I was in the Alex Albon school of thought until the last couple of corners, but I would have stuck to my guns and pitted. And that's what it gave a few people, including Pierre, including Nico, a jump start, because it took Russell out of contention, it took Leclerc out of contention, even Hadjar started 12th, was then shuffled out into irrelevance for the Grand Prix. So that was the wrong decision. Pitting. Staying out was wise. And I actually thought Hülkenberg starting last was going to be the guy that's going to pit, because he's got nothing to lose. But he knew better than me and stayed out. But what he did do really well was pit first when the rain came down again. So he pitted lap 9 and was the only driver to do that. And then he pitted on the new Inters and just had loads of grip, loads of pace, undercut a load of drivers. And suddenly, when everyone else pitted 1 or mostly 2 laps later, emerged right up there towards the sharp end. Yeah,
I'm just looking. Lap 9 and 10 were those laps to pit. Hulk and Stroll both did that and ended up P3 and P4 at the time. Then Hülkenberg somehow has got a P3, a podium for today. We are about to hear from Jonathan Wheatley, who I'm sure will be a very, very happy man. He's with Dakota.
Jonathan, a fantastic day for Kick Sauber. 239 starts for Hülkenberg, and finally he's made a podium. How happy are you for him and for the team?
I mean, it's inseparable for both, but what I can't believe is it's taken so long for a driver of Nico's talent to get this podium. I mean, he drove a masterclass race today, absolutely did not do a thing wrong from start to finish, gave the team confidence, and the team responded. We made the right calls on strategy, all the right conversations were being had. There was a good calmness on the pit wall during all of this time, and I find myself in a situation where we're in a situation I couldn't possibly have imagined when I joined the team in Japan.
I can hear the champagne popping up in there. How are you going to celebrate tonight?
Do you know what? I haven't even given any thoughts of that yet, but one thing is for certain, I will be celebrating.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. It was
Thank
a great
you.
race.
Right, we know where the party is, thanks
I
to
don't
Kota.
think Sauber had the podium plan ready for what was going to happen.
They are going to be raiding the supplies for more and more champagne. We know where the party is down the paddock. We'll be heading down there after this post-race show to have a drink to Nico Hülkenberg, because what a brilliant performance. And Gabby Bortoleto, look, one of those who gambled onto a slick early doors and then ultimately crashed out. And he's had a tricky weekend anyway with two big spins, one of which was costly to the front left suspension. He came on the radio afterwards, despite his really difficult race, and said, you have no idea how much respect I have for you. I'm so happy for you. And it's just amazing to see. It's such a heartwarming story, honestly. This is Gabriel Bortoleto in trouble in the race.
Yeah, I mean, this is just learning how difficult conditions are when you're on slicks around. It's so high speed. I've been in this position in 2016. Being on the grid as a rookie, it rained, it dried, and I was trying to find my feet on the slicks, and it's just so difficult. You've got to stay on those train tracks, as Alex was describing. So no surprise that the rookies found it a little bit tricky again today. But yeah, nice. You know, I think Gabby's got a lot of respect for Nico. The qualifying pace is so even between them. It's really impressive, but I still think there's a lot to be learned from the experience that Nico's got in the race, and that's where, you know, they're at different ends of their careers, and nice to see the respect.
We'll come to some of the DNFs, actually, because, yeah, we had Bortoleto. We had a weird one with Franco Colapinto, which almost went under the radar in the melee at the start. He pitted under the formation lap and then was just wheeled into the garage. And the radio then has since shown he was stuck in second gear, and that was that. And obviously a pit lane start with a new PU. And not to be.
There was so much going on. I didn't even notice that the guy was meant to start in the pits, didn't, because everyone else came into the pits.
Exactly.
And yeah, it was absolute chaos trying to work out what was going on. But obviously that's bad news for Alpine. But hey, if they're going to have a mechanical, sadly for Franco, it was meant to be on that car, because Pierre was at least starting on the grid and did a great job.
Yeah, and look, not what Franco Colapinto will want at the moment, as it seems he's on a race-by-race basis. He'll want to get out there and prove what he's about, not DNFing before the race is really even.
But you know, he didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
he needs another shot again from that. That can't count against him.
For sure. Lawson then, he was our next DNF. Sonoda, Ocon, a bit of a melee, and suddenly Sonoda.
Yep.
No idea. Sonoda, Lawson, no idea what happened to him.
Yeah, so he thought that Ocon, you know, just turned into him, but Ocon had Sonoda on the inside. So when you're in Liam's shoes here, you can see in your left mirror, you can see a Haas. What you can't see is the Red Bull on the inside of the Haas. So it's a classic 3 into 2. If the Red Bull wasn't there, Esteban could stay more to the left, but the Red Bull was there. So if he turns left, he's going to hit Sonoda. If he tries to stay where he is, you hope that Liam's not going to come across, but Liam doesn't know the guy's there. It's a absolute standard racing incident.
You mentioned 2016 Brazil. You said it in commentary as well. Hadjar rear-ending Kimi Antonelli. You've been there, haven't you? And just how difficult conditions were at that point.
Yeah.
Visibility is next to nothing.
It's horrible. It's really horrible. You're building speed on the old main straight coming into Copse Corner, and you just can't see where you're going. You're just in the toe. You know there's a car somewhere ahead of you, but you're just hit with a wall of spray. So you're just trying to guess where the braking point is, where the corner is. Hope that you're not just going to drift straight off the track. And so again for Hadjar, you know, there's not much more you can do. It's just maybe you could be a little bit more cautious and blend out of the throttle slightly. But you can see here just the difficulty. We're trying to work out what on earth, and then. When I hit the back of Kvyat in Brazil, honestly, when you're on your onboard camera, you think, could you have seen that coming?
No.
I felt the contact before I saw anything, and that would be the same for Hadjar today.
I mean, it's bad enough if you're driving on the motorway, right? And it's really raining,
yeah.
And you think, I can't see a thing here. I can't imagine the speeds that we're seeing around this track and the conditions out there and the lack of grip.
And it happens in a split second.
Absolutely.
Right? In the dry, they're coming towards 200 miles per hour at that point. It's obviously less in the wet conditions, but the grip level's low. You're almost thinking about aquaplaning on an Inter at that point. So I exonerate him. It was already a tough race for Hadjar towards the back.
Yeah, really tough. So double DNF then for Racing Bulls. Can we come to Ferrari and Charles Leclerc? Because, you know, looking up the order, you've got Antonelli who DNF, then you've got Sonoda, a 10-second penalty for him once again, and then you've got Charles Leclerc. He was one of those early pitters onto the slicks. Ultimately not the correct decision, ultimately not worth the gamble. A dismal day, though, for Charles. We didn't really hear much of his radio, but I'd imagine there was something said.
Well, actually, a horrible weekend for him.
Yeah.
Started 6th, could have been on the front row. If he was on the front row, would he have taken the gamble? I don't know, but probably it would have been less likely to. the Ferrari car isn't great in these conditions. When it gets slippery, we've seen it a few times that in Melbourne they were both floundering around a little bit towards the back end of the top 10. In Miami, in the sprint, Lewis got a podium, but he actually got that because he was struggling a bit when it was wet, so he just put on the slicks and it worked for him. But it was worth the gamble because the pace on the Inters was tricky. And I think we sort of saw it again. Lewis got himself back up to fourth, and at Silverstone he gave himself a shot of a podium. And it wasn't the cleanest race from him, but he still did enough in the long haul to be there, and he made the right calls roughly at the right time. Charles was undone initially by that formation lap pit stop, and then it just kept going away from him. Overtaking was difficult, stuck behind Kimi Antonelli. I like the efforts of barging his way past the two Williams. I mean, if you've got no DRS and you've got a chance to try and make a move, you need to go aggressive. But undone fundamentally by that first pit stop.
We did see, just during an interview there, we saw Behrman and Ocon making their way to the stewards, both looking a little sorry for themselves. So there was contact between the two of them in the race. Behrman ultimately P11. We'll wait and see if there's any post-race penalties applied. But for him, of course, starting from P18 with a 10-place grid drop. Once again, it's these little things, isn't it, Jolien, for a rookie, operationally, procedurally, and in terms of his racecraft, that Ollie will hone and finesse over the years.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it there, he's clean up the inside. He's right up towards the apex. So I don't think he's not like an awful ambitious lunge that he's tried to put in on his teammate. I think they've both come out on slick tyres. A bit of dampness on the track makes it tricky. You don't want to crash with your teammate, so the Haas won't be very happy with him. But I don't think he's done anything awful there. He's seen the gap. Maybe Esteban's braked a little bit early. Ollie's got down the inside, and then they've kind of had contact at the apex. So I think Esteban's also turned in, tried to stay on that dry line. Of course, you don't want to open the steering, go off wide onto the wet patch, and find yourself on the Brooklyn shortcut over the grass. So I don't see a massive one. They came past us in a bit of a conflab, I'm sure, trying to put their own points across, and they'll go and do it to the stewards. But if Haas are wise, I think they'll just say, look, racing incident, we'll move on.
Yeah, Ollie Behrman, P11, Esteban Ocon, P13, ultimately. Back into the top 10, and it was Russell with the 1 point in P10, then Alonso, and of course Lance Stroll in P7, ultimately, after the Pierre Gasly overtake. Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, double points for Aston Martin on a home race in which they are just about 500 metres up the road. Could there have been more from Lance? It looked like basically he was eating up his tyres too much.
Yeah, but Lance finished 7th. For Lance, that's a really great result. He started way down the order, 17th, so he's made 10 places. Aston Martin, I thought, called the strategy really nicely. I think pitting...
Fernando Alonso didn't at one point.
He wasn't. He's not going to be happy still, I think, even finishing up behind Lance. But yeah, I think pitting when they did for the softs actually was the perfect window, because he managed to use the pace and then pitted again early for the Inters, and that launched him even ahead of Hulkenberg's great strategy. So that worked out really well for Lance. And then eating up the tyres, but just missing a little bit of pace. And actually, when the DRS opened, then it was activated again. Hulkenberg came through, Hamilton came through, and in the end, Gasly came through, and Max as well. So the pace outed for him, but he gave himself a shot with the strategy and got some good points.
Yeah, double points for Aston Martin at home. Not a bad result at all. Upgrades on that car, perhaps beginning to work and move them in the right direction, as the Haas drivers are just walking back out here as well, deep in conversation and doing driver
the hand gestures
movements.
of I was there, you were there, still going on. This has been a while now.
Yeah, to suggest, yeah, exactly what exactly went on there. We'll see what the outcome of that is. We'll bring it to you if it happens while we're still on air as well. Looking beyond then, of course, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Max Verstappen, bit of damage limitation to manage to get back up to P5 once things dried out, and he could really kind of get to grips with the track once again. But ultimately, starting from pole, the wrong package, the wrong setup on the car, it's been a bit of a horrible day for the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rare day where he would have been really gutted that it was raining, because we've said it a few times now, just that low downforce package. What you want when it rains anywhere is downforce, because it just helps you keep glued to the road. And you could see it from so early on. Max led the race, but just his lines were off. He was understeer. He was fighting so hard. I don't know how he didn't spin it before he spun it, because he was fighting with one hand tied behind his back with that downforce option. The weather caught everyone out. It really caught everyone out. None of us saw it coming, and if it even dried earlier, it would have worked for him. But as it turned out, not the case.
Sod's law for Red Bull. It's boiling sunshine now, shining right into our faces. It's quite lovely. Just behind us, the pen, Lewis Hamilton has been in there talking. It is a P4 for him today, not a podium, but a valiant drive. Let's hear from him.
Lewis, you put up such a fight for that podium out there today, just missing out by a few seconds. Can you talk us through that one from your side, please?
Yeah, difficult race, not a great one from my side. I did the best I could. I think, as it showed, there's plenty of mistakes out there and very, very tricky conditions, and really a very, very hard car to drive here. This car doesn't like those conditions, so yeah, not ideal, but it got some points at least.
We heard you, well, after qualifying yesterday, you said the car was on a knife edge. We heard your radio messages in the race today as well, just how difficult it was behind the wheel. But you were showing some amazing pace out there as well. That final stint on the Inters, it seemed like you dropped away a little bit from Nico. Can you just sum up that segment of the race as well, the run to the checkered flag?
Yeah, tyres dropping off. This car doesn't like low speed corners. It's lots of understeer, and I started knocking out the left front, and then just couldn't keep up.
And what do you take from this weekend as a whole? Are there plenty of positives still to take from it?
What I take from it is the amazing energy from all the fans. They've been incredible this weekend, and it's been amazing to see so many people switch to red, and got some points.
Thanks, Lewis.
Tricky. The podium was within reach at one point, but ultimately just fell away from him. And I'm sure he'll be delighted for Nico Hülkenberg. But equally, he has such a strong record of podiums here at Silverstone, and that car still proving an issue to drive in various ways through the season, and here, obviously, in the wet.
Yeah, but I actually think he's had a really good weekend still.
Me too, yeah.
To be fourth, he's looked stronger than Charles this weekend, and that's not happened really consistently through a whole weekend, but in the dry and the wet, he's been there, nearly got back to a podium. Again, the damage was really done in qualifying, and then they don't have the grip in the wet conditions, but I thought we saw a much better Lewis this weekend.
We've moved down from the pen to McLaren. We're keeping one eye and to see if we can grab a chat with Zach Brown, obviously to get to the bottom of what went on with that Oscar Piastri penalty, and I guess mixed emotions for him, because he's got one very, very happy driver whose dreams just come true, and one driver who is absolutely livid. How do you deal with that?
Well, I don't think we're going to see an unhappy Zach when he turns up, if he turns up, because he's finished 1-2, and that's, in the end, the team result is great. But you've got to manage your drivers, and I think Oscar's just been very, very mature. He feels he's been robbed of a Grand Prix victory that he's worked hard for. He's qualified on the front row, and done a lot of the hard work. The penalty went against him, and naturally that's going to be extremely disappointing.
Do you feel that we are seeing a little bit more emotion, and I use that word lightly because it is Oscar Piastri, but we're seeing a bit more on the race radio from him over the last couple of race weekends? There was a sort of exclamation of annoyance in Austria after qualifying. We rarely see an outburst like that from him, and then we have him here asking for a position back.
Yeah.
Is that an indication of the pressure of leading a championship, of the pressure of knowing your teammate is inching back at you?
Yeah, I think we're probably seeing like 1 out of 10 of emotion from him in the last 2 weekends. And he's had a really rough run in Austria. It was the qualifying. He didn't get a final lap in. Still had a great fight for the win. But here, I just think it's not his home race, but it's still a Grand Prix victory. He's not won that many. It's not only a Grand Prix victory, but its championship connotations are huge, and that gap is just going. Lando in the lead, then Oscar extended it, and now it's coming back down. And when you're in the championship fight, you're just feeling like you need to keep adding the points, and having that one go against you for a reason that you don't think is just. It's gutting. I've had these things in the junior series. I've never been fighting for a Grand Prix win, but I can only imagine it's 100 times the case. So I just think he's handled himself pretty maturely, and if you don't see a little bit of emotion on a day like today, then I would be really worried about him.
No, I mean, absolutely. The ebb and flow of this championship must be incredibly draining. I guess that's what makes a champion is the ability to withstand that. You know, at one point it was a 22-point lead, and we were saying, well, if it goes out any further than this, this is bad news for Lando Norris. Then it was 7 points back. Now it's a further 7 points back.
But it nearly did go to 29 because Oscar had the lead in Austria, and if he had just held on to that move, then it would have gone 29, and then he could have won today, and then it could have gone 36. These bits of momentum make a big difference. In the end, it's 14 points down towards Lando, which is big for him, but Oscar will regroup, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I have to say a huge thank you to McLaren for allowing them to race and allowing this championship to ebb and flow in the manner in which it is. Zach, firstly, huge congratulations to Lando Norris and to the team for a 1-2. I'd imagine there are a few mixed emotions, though, in terms of what your drivers are saying to you in there. We'll start with Lando.
We heard the you can imagine what he's saying. To win your home Grand Prix, as he said, it's a dream come true. Tried to figure out whether Monaco or Britain was more exciting for him. I actually think the British Grand Prix. So awesome for him. Team did a fantastic job on pit wall. You know, there was a lot of different strategies out there, and I think we made the right call every time. And unfortunate for Oscar, he drove a brilliant race, and I think that situation there was a bit of the perfect storm. Bit of a late safety car call. He accelerates to get some temperature in. I think Max thinks he's going. Max accelerates. He hits the brakes because he wants to get temperature in the tires. So I think it looked worse on TV than it was. But, you know, some of these calls are subjective, and you just got to roll with it.
Yeah, he obviously was asking at the end for if you thought it was a penalty, then we'd swap positions. Now, I didn't think that would ever going to be the case that you were going to do that, but how did you
try? I don't blame him for that.
I would have given it a go as well, but how did you feel about the penalty when it came in?
We thought it was harsh.
Yeah.
We thought it was harsh, but there's nothing we can do about it. But I don't think it would be appropriate for us to start overriding penalties. You got to let a race play out. You know, there was a safety car risk there, which could have helped Oscar and mitigated his penalty. And so we let the race play out. That was a conversation Andrea and I had on the pit wall, was let's not kind of manipulate what's happened, let it play out. And there was a window there that it would have gone Oscar's way. And as it turns out, Lando won it, you know, fair and square.
Do you draw similarities between this one and what happened with George Russell in Canada? And that result was obviously thrown out. That protest was thrown out.
Yeah.
The result stood.
Yeah. I think, I mean, they're all always a little bit different. So, you know, we didn't think it was right. We thought it was harsh. But, you know, you get in the rule book and, you know, then you go, well, that shouldn't be the same penalty as someone who's just driven someone off the track. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think we just put it behind us. A lot of racing to go. He's still leading the World Championship. And let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, we were saying that perhaps conditions were a mitigating factor here, that it was obviously just that much more treacherous out there. What did you make of Oscar's call to swap the positions back?
I don't blame him for asking. I would ask the same question. So, you know, obviously he was disappointed, as you would be getting out of a race car, feeling like you got a harsh penalty and you lost the race because of it. But we move on.
And back to Lando, I mean, obviously this is a huge win. He's won Monaco, he's won here. And the championship gap now between your guys is almost one race win just between them. But Lando must be absolutely buzzing, obviously on the high now, but the momentum feels like it's heading his way.
They both have it, right? You know, I mean, that could have been Oscar's race. Austria was extremely close. So I think what we now have is two drivers on top of their game, in the car and out of the car, which I think is going to be very exciting. And I'm sure we'll have some epic battles. Maybe some mistakes will be had over the course of the year, and we'll be having a conversation about what happened there. But we're going to race each other hard, fairly, transparently, as we've been doing, and may the best driver win.
When we started this weekend, race pace looked a little more marginal in terms of the advantage that you have enjoyed. It was less. When we then saw everybody onto those inters, the race settled slightly until everyone made the slicks. The pace advantage that McLaren had was huge. Suddenly we were looking at 20, 30 seconds up the road. What does this mean looking ahead to Belgium in terms of the confidence McLaren continue to have? Different tracks, different conditions, that pace advantage is still there.
Yeah, I think we'll be quick. I'm very confident of that. You know, some races we've won by a second, some 30. The conditions here, I think the competition helped us out a little bit with, Max spun, and then the Ferraris and the Mercs. I don't think, turns out, looks like those were the right calls. So I think our pace was great, not to take anything away from our own team, but I do think our core competitors maybe didn't have a perfect execution day, which exaggerated how much we won by.
What's a race like on the pit wall when you're 30 seconds clear of Nico Hülkenberg in third place? Are you sitting back, getting ready for the podium again?
No, because you saw Oscar went off twice, and so you got the weather conditions. You also know a safety car could come out at any moment. I'm sure on TV it looks quite, they've got this covered. I can tell you on pit wall, until they cross the finish line, It's high stress stuff.
Yeah, you could still feel plenty of jeopardy. And look, I know he's not one of your drivers, but can we have a word on Nico Hülkenberg?
It's great to
What
see
a
that.
story,
Yeah,
right?
it's awesome. You know, he's been in the sport for a long time. He's a great guy. He deserves to have won races and multiple podiums. So to see him up there, it's kind of the perfect podium because we're not fighting him in the championship. So would have rather seen him up there than most others.
Zach Brown's a very, very happy man alongside me, and rightly so. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations today, and
Thank you.
head up to Oscar as well. All right, we are going to hear now from Nico Hülkenberg. He's with Dakota.
Nico, congratulations. Massive congratulations, actually, is on order. How proud do you think your wife and your daughter Naomi would be watching you at home, standing on the podium here at Silverstone?
Yeah, knowing my wife, there's probably the third bottle of champagne is open by now, and she's well on the way with the celebrations. So hello to home, to the family. But yeah, I mean, what a race, what an incredible day for us, and yeah. It's a bit surreal. I think I need a few moments. You know, so many things happened. It was very intense with, at the end with Lewis chasing, and this race with these changeable conditions wasn't easy. It was very intense. So yeah, enjoy it now. Enjoy the next few weeks, but look forward to get home.
I'm sure they'll be waiting you with open arms. Congratulations again. Thank you.
Oh, so lovely. One of the great stories of our sport. You felt he could not finish his career without finally securing that long-awaited, cherished F1 podium, and he has got it. Anne Anstead, car builder, presenter, here with us for this weekend as our guest. How much have you enjoyed this British Grand Prix? What a race.
Oh my God, I mean, the whole weekend's been this emotional roller coaster. We had all the chess moves of practice, and then all of a sudden that mic dropped by Max from seemingly nowhere, and at the other end of the scale, Hülkenberg sitting down in 19th. And that seems like we should be talking about that, celebrating that, because it's such a monumental thing. And it's interesting because the whole paddock is so thrilled for the guy. He's been in the sport for so long. And then, of course, the changing weather. We're currently standing here on a dry as a bone floor that only a couple of hours ago was soaking wet, and that really impacted the race. But, we've covered all those areas without getting to the main factor. The British fans are here at the home of British Motorsport on the anniversary of the first ever race in Formula One, and we have a British winner. So, I mean, you guys have got a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it's been a magical day, hasn't it? Jolien, your thoughts then after complete chaos? I thought last year's British Grand Prix was something. This has taken it to the next level. And what does it mean for Belgium?
Well, it's another cracker. I mean, we woke up this morning thinking, right, is this going to be a classic race? You got Max with low downforce, going to be difficult to pass. But I just thought something always happens to make the British Grand Prix a great race. And I saw that stat on the screen at the end of the race. This is the 25th win for a British driver at the British Grand Prix. So when we're celebrating 75 years, 1 in 3 British Grand Prix has been won by a Brit. And Lewis has done a lot of heavy lifting there. But
there must be something in it, sort of home territory.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of great British drivers. There's been 10 champions. And there's maybe a future champion or 2 out there as well. But I mean, having the home support, it does just make a big difference. And so for Lando getting this win it's a big moment. And then you throw it forward to Belgium, another great classic circuit as well.
One of my favourites, yeah.
Yeah, and the championship battle is so finely poised again right now. You feel like, as Zach said, momentum could shift very quickly one way or the other, but they're so evenly matched that tiny details are making the difference.
Great stuff. And thank you very much for joining us this weekend. Jolien, thank you. You've worked tirelessly from commentary box to trackside.
I have loved it.
Just standing here alongside me to the grid. I've loved it. Ruth Buscombe as well, Alex Jakes, Alice Powell, Billy Munga, Lee McKenzie, a whole host have brought you all the action here. Thanks to Dakota. Thanks to Mike for asking some of the questions in our interviews. What a race we have seen. McLaren have secured a 1-2. Nico Hülkenberg has stood on the podium for the first time in his career. But today belongs to Lando Norris and the British fans. What a race. Take a look back and savour it.
And the British Grand Prix is go! They crawl from the line and Oscar Piastri has the traction. Max Verstappen thinks about the chop. He hangs on to the race lead from pole position. Piastri is now compromised and Lando Norris knows it. The driver currently in third, trying to improve ahead. He can't get by, but he's angling that car. Hamilton diving to the inside. The top 4 remain. How they left the grid. Verstappen, then Piastri, Norris and Hamilton. Pierre Gasly got a mighty launch off the line. He's up 3 places. And that is the heavy contact.
Who the hell is that? I'm out.
Papaya out front. Piastri takes the lead. This is on the verge of a safety car, and it is extraordinary rain. It is biblical out there. Here we go again. Oscar Piastri has a clear view. Everyone else, less so. Pick your restart moment. You cannot be alive. He's gonna lose it. Max Verstappen spins around from second position.
Oh, mate. He's a solidly against those down.
It's a 10-second time penalty for Oscar Piastri. Hulkenberg goes through to a podium position.
Wow, just instantaneous loss of grip.
10-second wait for McLaren. Behrman and Ocon come together, racing each other. Critical outlap for Lando Norris, who now leads the British Grand Prix. Lando Norris wins the British Grand Prix. Nico Hulkenberg, 239 starts and a podium finisher in Formula One at long, long last.
You've won the British Grand Prix. Well done.
Woo! Woo! We did it! At home. Oh my God, we did it.